Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co-host and editor of Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcast, or give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. We are where podcasts can be found all over the web. If you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the wild world and extremely exhausting world of Avatar and animation. And now, on with the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And everyone's favorite Crazy Lemur, Bree.
Me, but 1 week later.
And yes, we are talking about Avatar because the new movie, Avatar Aang, The Last Airbender, finally released on Paramount Plus. Got kind of a limited theatrical release. Like, by that I mean it premiered at San Diego Comic-Con and maybe one or two other locations, but that's about it.
In New York and LA, just to get, enough for an awards nomination, which, I'm sorry, I'll talk more about my feelings about the movie later, but I'm sorry, that movie's not getting fucking nominated for shit. I'm sorry. Like, it's a beautiful movie. I'm just being real.
I mean, I just don't think it was... I mean, let's talk about this later, because, short answer, it was never going to get nominated, but we'll go into that after and such. Like, after we catch up to that, because normally we would talk about all the cool stuff that was announced at San Diego Comic-Con, and there's not much. We'll get to hear that on the next 0 hour podcast episode, where y'all will talk more about Marvel, Batman, and all that jazz. Because we want to just focus on Avatar, not the James Cameron franchise, the animated franchise that is, like, from top to bottom, the most cursed franchise in animation, at least in US animation.
Before we get too far, because I don't know if we ever really... I mean, I know it's been brought up, as a point of reference for other things, but, have we really even talked about Avatar, just on its own on this podcast before? And if not, now would be a good time to sort of run through our history. So, Brie, I'll start with you. How did you get into...
I am the Avatar expert, because that's literally half my livelihood.
Yes. So, have you been, a quote-unquote fan of the franchise from the very beginning, or did it take you a while to sort of get into it?
I don't know. Let me just ask my Korra Nendroid and my giant Zuko figure next to me on my shelf. So I got into Avatar pretty early. Not, at the beginning, but, at the beginning-ish. Because I saw, trailers. I saw that stupid TV spot. Do you want to go penguin sledding with me? And I thought, because I was getting about of that age. I'm like, oh, this looks fucking stupid. And then I randomly watched an episode. I was like, wait, shit, this is actually good. And then I watched religiously when episodes premiered on Friday night. It was part of Nickelodeon's animation block all the time. Just to let you know how far back it is, I swear to God, I might be misremembering this, but I remember the book one finale. Nick Cannon was holding a watch party. So this is how you know it's the early 2000s. Because it was weird. But yeah, and I just was religious ever since. I remember back in the day, and this is actually relevant because this is the first inklings of the Avatar curse. I remember watching Day of Black Sun early because I guess it randomly aired early on a Nick UK affiliate. I think it was their version of Nicktoons that existed at the time.
I thought it was the Canadian network.
No, I'm pretty sure it was because I remember seeing a Nick UK watermark, because I was watching it on this Krusty Krab anime site. That and Bleach, this is back on YouTube. Please give this video 5 stars, and everything's split up in 3 stars depending on what you're watching. So yeah, I know I am aging myself horribly here, but I did that. But I remember this is when things started to get really fucking weird with Avatar. Again, this is book 3, so they aired Day of Black Sun early, so I watched it earlier. But of course, I watched it again when it was on TV and whatnot. But then episodes for I remember boiling Rock I watched early because for some inexplicable reason, the episodes were released early on DVD at like Walmart or some shit. And then basically when Nick over like a week and a half aired the second half of book 3 like every day in marathon and just went like basically Stephen Bomb before a Stephen Bomb with episodes. And then in terms of Comic-Con, they released a free Comic-Con weekend like a week before the finale that literally spoiled the finale.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then that's not even getting to the best part. All the amp up saying, oh, guess what? In a couple years, guys, we're gonna get this great movie. We got M. Night Shyamalan involved. It's gonna be fucking great. Which, by the way, that movie filmed by me, and I'm so sorry, guys.
That was like the end. That was like truly the end of M. Night Shyamalan's Is He the Next Spielberg era, when his movies weren't panning out, and then he was like, yeah, I'll do Avatar, or The Last Airbender, because of
You know what the
copyright.
crazy thing is? I'll defend him. I don't think that movie was entirely his fault. I think he was an easy scapegoat.
No, I don't think, with how we know executives run things, especially with the fact that, like, the actress who played Katara in that movie was not only the whitest person you know, I think she was like the daughter of an executive at Paramount.
No, Nicola Peltz. Do you remember that Disney like bit, shareholder, like the war that one guy that was doing it, that asshole? That's her dad.
Okay. Makes sense. And I don't think it was his fault. I don't think he did anything great about it because, yeah, when you try to shove a 25 episode season into one movie, you don't get the good stuff.
No, what you do is you shove it into a 10 episode Netflix drama. That's the real way to do it. Although I will give The Last Airbender one thing I don't feel like people give enough credit for. I think the production design is actually really cool. Like, I actually like Aang's tattoo designs.
Oh yeah, production design stuff wasn't bad for that movie. It was just everything else and how flaccid the element bending was. It's like, what do you mean?
You wasted Dev Patel.
Yeah.
Like, that should send you to the gulag.
Yes.
It's also like, what do you mean it took 6 earthbenders
to move like a pebble?
To move a pebble. It's like, what the hell is up with that? Did you just realize that this movie was going to cost so much within, like, visual effects? I mean, it was like, okay, but by book 3, it's like everyone was like, okay, that's pretty great. So that was a pretty damn good show. And then Korra happened. And guys, it's been about like 2 decades now. Please get a life.
Leave Korra alone!
Jesus, seriously.
Like, if anyone follows me on Blue Sky, I posted a Korra meme with, like, I don't know what their preferred name is, but the Chris Crocker, leave Britney alone meme side by side with the caption, leave Korra alone.
I mean, what else is that? How... Because, man, like, Korra, new avatar, new world, new characters.
New vagina.
Yeah, it did a lot of interesting world building, had a lot of cool, interesting ideas, and then not fully fumbled the ball, but it wasn't as tight as the first series.
Let me defend Korra a second. I think Korra is a great show if you only watch books 3 through 4. In that respect, I think it's just as good, if not, some of, like, the political theming and stuff is slightly better than Avatar. But as a whole, she is my complicated, messy baby.
Well, it was also the fact that, like, Nickelodeon was like, man, this is costing us a lot of money. Let's move from Studio Mir to, I think, Studio Pierrot, the Naruto studio.
So what I think happened was, so actually in book 2, only I think like the first 6-ish episodes were done by Poirot. So what happened was, because I think Korra originally was pitched as a full series, then got made to just a mini series. And then I guess midway through production of book 1, Nick was like, hey, this is testing great. Let's make this a full series. Here's the problem. Mir, I think, at that point was already contracted out to do stuff. I would imagine at that point it was probably Legendary Defenders, was probably in early production, so they weren't available like the first half of book 2. So Studio Poirot stepped in, and you know what? The Poirot episodes look fucking fine. Like, you know, like the people getting so hung up about it. I mean, freaking Audrey Plaza's character's her face. That's a classic Poirot. Love that shit. But, you know, the Nickelodeon not fully committing to Korra and like supporting it, I think 9 out of 10 Korra's problems stem from that, because they couldn't actually plan out a story arc. You know, they're writing it, okay, this is going to be the end. So the fact that Korra is more or less fucking Frankenstein together and it's not more of a hot mess is actually a miracle.
I mean, let's just say this. It can get worse. Hi, Promise Neverland fans. You know what I'm talking about. And then after that, they were just like, yeah, we're not touching this show or this franchise again. Then it's just like, it stayed dormant for what seems like a good decade, maybe? Or maybe like 5 or 6 years.
Let's see, when did...
I think the turning point is when The Last Airbender dropped on Netflix.
And you want to know when it dropped on Netflix?
Wasn't it like 2020?
Yes.
No wonder why the fan base got bigger then.
It got so much bigger then.
And so much more insufferable.
Yeah. And then they were like, okay, we're going to make a live-action Netflix series. And it's like, fine. We can't take animation seriously, so dumb baby adults have to watch something as live-action to take it seriously. Fine, whatever. If I recall, like a year or two in production of that, the 2 original creators literally left that because they're like, fuck this, we can't do this. And
yep, and they founded Avatar Studios in 2021.
Yeah, so then, well, not a whole lot happened after that. It was just like so much time and focus went into either more books or comics. They were like making comics, books, a few video games here and there. Like one of the video games was made by Platinum Games, and it was actually a pretty solid little action game. Just made me wish that Platinum Games could have done more with that one, but by this point now that like Platinum Games is kind of not its own studio anymore, so we'll talk about that another time if we ever do. So then it's like, yes, the founding of Avatar Studios. They're going to make Avatar TV shows and movies. And then we hear nothing
for like half a decade.
Mm-hmm.
So then they're like, hey, we're going to release an Avatar movie. And it's going to be animated. It's going to be about Aang.
And it's going to be in 2D, and you will love it.
It's going to get a big theatrical release. Jump cut to a few months ago. They're like, hey, you're still getting that movie, but we're going to release it on the streaming at one point or another, maybe. And I don't know what came first, that flaccid announcement or the fact that somehow some idiot at Paramount or Nickelodeon got the movie leaked, like sent the movie out to some nobody who then...
Well, they got hacked. The guy got arrested.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't just some idiot sending the wrong email being like, oh shit!
Well, I mean, the security wasn't good. I mean, it probably was a phishing scam or something to get on, like, the servers, but we talked about this when it happened, but we all know, they, sponge out of water, not sponge out of water, the latest SpongeBob movie, that clearly was originally supposed to be like a Netflix movie or a Paramount Plus movie, got unceremoniously dumped into theaters with that terrible fucking Ice Spice song. Yeah, So obviously it didn't do numbers. They're like, oh, well, I guess the animation theaters don't do well anymore. They've sent it to Paramount Plus. Because we've done nothing to build Paramount Plus other than shove Star Trek stuff on it and, Yellowstone spin-offs. So we gotta do fucking something.
Yep, and then when the announcement of a new Avatar series came out, a few months after that, boy howdy, were there the hackers... instead of doing something useful in their lives, we're like, we're going to release a TV show online. And it's like, could you guys, like, take down the government, shut it down completely, take out everyone's student debt or something? And it's like, no, we gotta focus all of our endeavors on this Avatar show. And it's like, hackers and Anonymous are freaking useless. Like, even without the whole fact that, like, it seems like Nickelodeon and Paramount did not care about this franchise. It's the Sideshow Bob walking across yard rakes scene. It's like any moment they're about to get something good going, wham! And then you just kind of just sigh.
Yeah, it's like clockwork every single time. I know it's the funniest thing that's been through all this, like all these recent Avatar announcements in like the last 2-ish weeks or whatever, including that this movie randomly dropped instead of, its alleged release date in October, which Seven Havens, I believe, is now occupying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is, that this was meant to diverge from like the stuff going on with the merger, which honestly has a pretty high chance of not happening now.
Which is, it definitely makes me laugh because, like, Parrot went through so much to get people on board with the merger. Like, to the point where, like, Netflix was almost, no, they were ready to go. Like, Warner Brothers accepted their offer, and then Paramount came in, and Netflix is like, you know what? We love you guys, but not that much.
And it's so funny because they're like, why can't WB just go to Paramount? They actually care about theatrical releases. No, they don't. They wouldn't have shoved a Tiger's Apprentice or Under the Boardwalk onto DVD only.
Or that whole Wonder Park show that never happened.
God. It's just like, they don't care. I mean, and now that it's like, they had such a bad year last year. They kept losing money left and right, or they just barely broke even with most of their stuff because, like, The Running Man tanked, Smurfs and SpongeBob barely made their budgets back. I think even, like, Mission Impossible barely broke even on that.
No, I think that actually underperformed. I know the one before it, technically, I don't think it was a full bomb, but underperformed. But you know what? As much as I want to yell at David Ellison, Paramount has been mismanaged for like a good decade and a half. I can't quite blame him for that. What I can blame him for is that he was stupid enough to think that any of this would work. Because Skydance bought Paramount for about like $8 billion and some change. Just for perspective, the 4 currently out Avengers movies, I'm not talking about the entirety of the MCU, just the Avengers movies, have grossed $7 billion. And you were gonna buy Warner Brothers, which is arguably like Disney's like second big, Disney's biggest rival, for like $150 billion? Like, are you high?
I don't think they had the money. Like, I think they were
they never had the money, and they were hoping that this merger went quick, through the Paramount Skydance. But here's the thing about like Paramount. Paramount was like, please somebody buy us. Please somebody buy us for like a year and a half. And David Ellison was like, okay.
And mostly because I think the Ellisons did it because the dad wanted to buy his creepazoid of a son a movie studio, because the son apparently did try to like get into acting and then it just never worked out. So of course he's like, I'm blaming my entire acting career on everyone else but me. So I'm going to make everyone else suffer for it.
Yeah, can't be like your sister Megan, just makes shit and just kind of like disappears.
Ah, God. And I just feel bad for the Avatar franchise to get us back on track. It just seems like a cool, creative, lightning in a bottle situation that could have been so easy to just continue on with. It just cannot get away from controversy or something stupid happening. And I'm still looking forward to that new series. I know people are bitching about the art style, which, man, I don't care. Like, they're aiming this at a probably younger audience, a new generation. It's probably a good idea to change things up a bit because...
Yeah, I just wish the animation was a little bit more fluid, but my one colleague pointed this out, and he's right. Like, this show's clearly meant for, like, people getting into Avatar for the first, time, and that the Aang movie was made for adult Avatar fans.
That seems accurate, and I don't really even hate the art style for Seven Havens. It's just...
It just looks like Mirror's Leftovers. Like, this looks like, almost
Voltron.
like... Yeah, Voltron. Yeah, it looks more Legendary Defender than it does Korra.
Honestly, I was thinking it looked more like She-Ra than Voltron. Because at least Voltron still had, like, the wildly anime-ish expressions. She-Ra felt more, like, grounded in the sense that they did not go as far as they did with the facial expressions. With everything with She-Ra and what have you. And I like the idea of, like, a post-apocalypse Mad Max kind of Avatar world. I think that's a really cool setting because, I'm sorry, I don't want to see modern-day Avatar world. I don't want to see people airbending while on an iPhone. I don't want to see that. You have to keep it in this, like, Final Fantasy-ass era of fantastical sci-fi. Or sci-fi fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, as much as, the original creators want that to happen, and that was the original thing for the show, like, if you look at the show Bible, clearly, like, some inspirations were coming from that. Here's, like, my main issue with Seven Havens. I don't think the concept's necessarily a bad one, but Avatar as a series is kind of getting itself into the Star Wars problem, as I call it, when it really doesn't need to be. Because when you think about it, Avatar from its premise, we know there's been, like, 10,000 years of Avatar. So, like, in theory, you could just pick any moment in time. You don't have to worry about continuity or anything. You could just do an anthology. Just do whatever you want, because you're not going to go through, like, 5,000 plus avatars. Like, it's just impossible. So you can literally do anything in this universe. Yet we still kind of stay around the same, like, 1,000-year period, connected to Aang. Why?
There's, like, literally enough historical elements that we know about, especially with this new movie, where you could literally put this, like, butt naked at the beginning of the universe and such. We know how technically from... What were the episodes in Korra called that were all about, like, the very first Avatar?
I think it's called Beginnings, and I think canonically one lived 10,000 years ago.
So it's like you could literally do that and it would be fine. You could do it back when our super not absolutely the bad guy character in the movie said it then, because that would be kind of interesting of a slaughter-happy Earth Nation. They've literally hinted that the Earth Nation could be just as bad as the Fire Nation at points.
Yeah, like, literally, you could just do Game of Thrones, but Avatar.
Like, that was the whole thing. Well, wasn't that the whole thing with Avatar Kyoshi? Was the fact that, like, it's like, yo...
Yeah, where's my fucking Kyoshi show? Where's Kyoshi and Rongi? Where's my two lesbians at?
Because that was, like, that whole episode where Aang was put on trial in that one village because they hated Avatar Kyoshi. Because they're like, oh yeah, we killed your evil psychotic dictator hundreds of years ago, and now we're going to be our own little island. It's just like if you go in the past, I don't think you would run into the prequel problems where it's like, well, we know where this goes. You've opened it up enough to have a good playground sandbox experience. We don't need to keep following into sci-fi, like, space travel Avatar stuff. No. I mean, and yes, we can definitely talk about the fact, because we will have to talk about it, that, like, well, how far do we go with the aesthetic without it turning into a huge case of exotic... how do you say it? Exoticism? Or...
Orientalism.
Kind of like during that time period, during the 50s and 60s, when the US were, like, really hyper-fixated on, like, the whole, like, Hawaii and, like, those kind of coastal islands and such. And what have you, it's just like, maybe we're about to step into some yikes territory. Maybe we don't go that far. But I want to see what happens more, because sometimes trailers make the animation look worse than it is.
Also, this company's not known for doing great trailers, because if you saw the Transformers 1 trailer, you know.
Yep. I was just about to point that one out.
Transformers 1. The greatest Transformers movie nobody saw. So, with this new movie, it sucks that this movie got dicked around so much. Like, okay, fine. We'll do what the fans want and do adult versions of these characters. Or young adult versions of these characters. Okay, whatever. Like, that's fine. You gotta bring them back somehow. We gotta bring it. We haven't done much with the franchise. No, a lot of people were pretty okay on the Netflix live action stuff until the second season came out and everyone was like, man, this sucks. Which is so funny because, like, One Piece is doing gangbusters around on Netflix, but Avatar cannot match that at all.
Well, I think the reason is because Oda actually has, like, a kill order.
Yeah, we've talked about that one before, but
Right. I just feel so bad for this movie because it's like, and also, then again, this is not the first time Paramount has dicked around an animated movie. There was that CGI Little Prince movie that came out back in 2015, 2016.
Yep.
And they were like, it's about to get released, gets pulled from theaters before its release, and then forcefully shoved onto Netflix. And it was like, wow, this was a really damn good movie. What the fuck were y'all doing and thinking, Paramount?
Yes, unfortunately, the Paramount stank is not an invention of the Ellisons.
As much as we want to believe it is. It was annoying. Like, they do this a lot. Like I said, Under the Boardwalk got pulled from theaters because they simply couldn't redub one of the actors who turned out to be a huge, creepy, MAGA chud sex pest. David O. Russell. Hold on.
No, Russell Brand.
Russell Brand.
But I love how in his Despicable Me character, they just said, he's dead now. He will never come back.
Exactly. Finally, with this new movie, even though it got leaked online, I stayed the hell away from it for the longest time. And because I was just like, oh, what's this? And say, oh no, it's a clip from the movie. Just yeet it out the window.
I feel like I was more fortunate than you. I was able to avoid most of this.
I saw one tiny clip, and then I was just like, haha, blocking you, son of a gun. Bye. Let's get into this, because, okay, before we really get into it, overall thoughts about the movie before we dive into it. Bree, you go first.
Okay, so it's complicated. I like this movie. I want to love it, but I can't. I think this movie has too many structural problems. I think if this movie was like a mini-series, I would have liked it better. But the main problem of this movie, like, and again, my colleague said it best, it feels very, like, early to mid-2000s Shonen Jump tie-in movie, adjacent, like, similar vibes. But the biggest issue is that if you've watched Korra, then you know, other than a thing that they retcon from the comics, which in this version is arguably better, like, oh my god, this movie ultimately doesn't matter.
Unfortunately, you're kind of right. Like, yeah. And animation-wise, gorgeous. Like, I would love to have seen this movie in theaters. But, yeah, I can't argue with the fact that it's basically like one of those Dragon Ball movies that, like, before Battle of Gods. The ones that are just, like...
They're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. They're outside of canon, but, like...
They got nice animation, like, definitely bigger than the TV budget. But ultimately, it's just, like, you kill, like, an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm just trying to think, was there ever a chance or a version of this movie that could have gone in, like, huge enough critical acclaim to uplift itself beyond being just a shonen hype battle franchise movie that may be tangentially connected continuity-wise, but doesn't really matter in the long run, even though it will introduce things that would have been pretty okay and cool to put into the actual series, but since it's not canon, it's like, well, okay.
I think the problem is, you know, the concept of, you know, the gang as adults is cool, and here, this is just a mild complaint of mine. I'm not going to get as mad at it, but some people, but it honestly, I love how these characters, you know, look. Like, don't get me wrong, the art direction of this movie is gorgeous, but it genuinely kind of sucks that they went more heavy in the anime direction, that a lot of their distinctive, you know, like, ethnic features, like, you know, Katara and Sokka, like, having, like, slightly larger, like, nose bridges, or, you know, the way Zuko and Toph's faces are shaped is kind of like, they have that sort of same faciness, so that kind of stinks. But the other issue with the gang is that they all came together to defeat Ozai. And this happens in the comics too. They kind of have to grow up and split up apart. So really the only two that are together consistently are Aang and Kintara. It's like you have to give them a reason to like suddenly be together. So other than them, I guess at some point doing stuff in Republic City, it just kind of feels contrived.
I think that's the issue here. So the base plot is Aang is feeling sad again. Okay, so apparently therapy doesn't exist in this world. He's feeling guilt as a young adult, still feeling guilt about the fact of how he ran away from his responsibilities and how basically the entire air nomad colonies around the world got wiped off the face of the earth by the Fire Nation going on a genocidal spree. Nothing timely about that premise happening right now. Anyway, he gets attacked by these the denied. These people.
If you just started perking up, I'm like, oh, you immediately, the vibe switches immaculate. You're like, oh, you're this kind of movie, aren't you?
This is like if My Hero Academia had a cult made of people who didn't have quirks in a world where 80 to 90% of people had some kind of quirk. Maybe not a superhero level quirk, but they had a quirk. And there's a reason why they didn't do that. Because it would be dumb. Here, this is the problem with it. Not only do they not play a big part in the overall movie outside of being like the hired goons of our villain character, they just aren't interesting. They're just like, we hate you guys because you guys can bend elements and not us. Even though they're pretty dangerous fighters, all things considered.
And here's my thing with this too, the Denied. I think this is a highlight of the series, like, greater issues of, like, wanting to tackle, like, these deeper political issues, but not really actually. Like, to me, just politically, like, this series, and again, I know Avatar's primarily geared towards children, but this movie is specifically for more mature kids and adults. And the series just can't seem to move past the point of, like, genocide bad, which it is, don't get me wrong, but to me, this is just, like, the poor man's equalist. Like, we don't actually see the impact that non-benders have had over the years, because on, like, a surface level, the idea of, like, if you think about it, like, non-benders have been, like, suffered generational terrorism for, like, hundreds of years, like, even before the 100 Years' War. Like, they're victims in, like, a society, that they have no, like, genuine way of fighting back. And you see this in, like, the first episode of Korra with, like, the triads or whatever, trying to, use their bending to hustle people for money. That's actually, like, a good idea to have, but they don't actually can or want to explore that.
So it just seems like with the whole plot of it all, they're just like, we hate you because you can bend the elements, we can't. Even though I think your colleague pointed out that, like, one of the characters was obviously one of those Fire Nation archers, which they may have not been firebenders, but they could still kill you 200 miles away with one single arrow and such. And they are trying to find this item, this antique that had this map that was going to lead them to this magical staff that was owned by one of the previous avatars, an airbender. And they were like, okay, we're going to get this map, going to get this, and then we're all going to have powers. We're going to be like Syndrome from The Incredibles. It's just like, okay. But it's probably like a curse of the 90-minute runtime. They don't expand upon it. They don't do anything with those characters. They don't have enough time to, because we have to get the gang back together. We have to go find Dave Bautista, or as his character is known as,
Taga.
Taga. And so it's like, okay, Aang finds him sealed away inside a mountain higher up than, like, any normal person would want to, which, I'm sorry, Aang, you're the Avatar. Why are you struggling rock climbing, getting to the top of this mountain? Is it just for more It's that, again, I don't give a shit about power scaling bullshit. But if you're the Avatar and you can do everything, including sealing away someone's bending capabilities, you shouldn't be struggling. Like, why not just fly yourself up there or firebend yourself up the mountainside or something, or earthbend a tunnel through the mountain to get to the sealed away airbender Taga? Which I forgot. Did Aang think this was where the Avatar was going to be? The previous Avatar was going to be, or
It was Sonam's staff, or or how I like to call her, Avatar Mommy.
yeah, Avatar Sonam, played by Frida Pinto. During her time, this is when like there was no Fire Nation, Earth Nation. Everyone was just kind of at each other's throats, no matter what.
I think they're still like implied that they're all basically like nomadic tribes.
Exactly. She's like, I'm going to make this staff, give my people airbending capabilities. We're going to spread our nomadic, peaceful vibes and philosophies to everyone. And the Earth Nation was just like, here's a rock, and then just slaughtered a bunch of them. We'll talk a little bit more about what happens then.
And also, I think in that part, is this the first time we see blood in the Avatar franchise?
I think
actually
so.
That's a good question, because I know bloodbending,
but it was off screen.
Yeah,
like you didn't need to see the blood coming out of someone to bloodbend. It's just human puppeteering and such. And God, I mean, this whole thing. It's like, on one hand, I love seeing these characters again. I like seeing Katara and Aang happy. I like Zuko being just the chillest dude ever. Like, he got his anger out entirely, completely out of the system. Toph is still the most confident badass in the world, who is utterly bored because nobody can top her earthbending or metalbending skills. But I want to give a shout out to Sokka for Roman Zaragoza.
Oh, he was great. Like, out of all the recasts, like, oh my god, I couldn't tell. He did such an amazing job.
Oh yeah, he was spot on. Like you said, out of everyone, like, he was the one that I was like absolutely certain that they brought back Jack Desana, but then nope, that's not the case.
Even Theon Kwan, her and her original voice actress, they have like a similar like cadence. But can we talk about how her voice has aged like wine?
Oh yeah, her voice has not changed at all. And I like the other voice cast. I mean, we'll talk about the issues with the voice cast, but I liked Eric Nam as Aang. I mean, I think Aang not being able to be as emotive and fun as he used to be is kind of a bummer, which is understandable because then it just leaves Eric Nam being kind of like, I'm going to be the mopey anime boy for most of this movie.
Yeah, the script unfortunately doesn't do him any favors. And like the first time he sounded like Aang is towards the end of the movie where he's like with the acolytes. Yeah. There he is.
Jessica Matten is fine as Katara. She does a decent job with the role. It's just Katara. It's just funny because a critic friend of mine loves this movie. He likes that it talks about the dangers of ethno-nationalism and such because of, well, we'll talk about the villain and such. And I told him, it's like, well, that's cool that you love it. I don't think the characters get to do a whole lot. And they were like, I disagree. I think they did pretty well with everyone. But no, they didn't. It's like what your colleague said. We could have just had Katara, Aang, and that's pretty much it. Maybe Sokka. But Toph doesn't do a lot. Zuko doesn't do a lot outside of drop some fan servicey lines. Like where when they get Taga and Taga's still knocked out and such, Toph is like, it's like, can someone just tell me if he's hot or not? And they're like, no, that's not the point right now, Toph. Just someone fucking confirm it. And Zuko's just like, yeah, he's pretty hot. It's all in the bone structure.
And then a million AO3 fanfic writers just started furiously like typing like they've never typed before.
And I think for the most part, outside of that stupid panel fiasco of this movie, I like Taga's design. I like the fact that it's like the Shyamalan movie in a way, where the arrows and such and tattoos.
Yeah, the air nomads are definitely like more Indian inspired, versus like maybe like Chinese. Like they definitely have more of like a, I guess, sort of like Buddhist, like Hindu, like sort of like, the Himalayas area, like definitely like more Indian specific.
It's like the Fire Nation was mostly based around like Japanese culture. Air Nomads were basically more Hindi, Southeast Asian inspirations. Water Nations were more indigenous, and Earth Nation was more a cultural hot pot.
Yeah, like, that was just more like straight up China.
Yeah, pretty much. And I like the design for Taga. I guess like my issue with Taga is he's so obviously the bad guy. And I know they kind of talked about this beforehand, that Aang was going to find another airbender and this airbender was going to be the bad guy, but the movie doesn't do a good job of hiding that. And maybe it's just because we've seen so many shonen franchise films happen. It's the fact that, like, okay, this is a movie exclusive character. He's never going to be mentioned outside of it. What's his bad guy motivation and such?
Yeah, it's like, once you see the first, like, 20 minutes of this film, you know exactly how the rest of it's going to play out.
And not only that, I'm not saying Dave Bautista gave a bad performance, because the vocal performance itself was actually really damn good. It's the script, and also, I hate to say it, but casting Dave Bautista in that role gives it away a little that he's like not exactly on the right side of history.
Yeah, he's not a Boy Scout.
No, he's not. Well, he's also the biggest name that this movie has, which, listen, I like Steven Yeun. It's kind of funny to see Steven Yeun back in Avatar when he was basically the very first Avatar. And so now he's Zuko, but I understand they probably wanted to have a more appropriate cast for this one instead of just being a bunch of white people. But I think Dante Bosco could have been brought back and that would have been fine. Steven Yeun was brought on because they needed a few celebrity
bigger name. But it's like crazy, because I think him and Dante are around the same age.
Are they really?
I'm pretty sure.
Because I do like Dave Bautista's voice performance. I think he's obviously the best wrestler turned actor, because he actually cares about how he comes off in his movies. But some of the celebrity voice casting in this movie bugged the daylight out of me. And it's mostly because they're for like one-off characters that we're never going to see again. Though, if I had to guess one character who will show up again, it will have to be Avatar Jean, who's voiced by Ke Huy Quan. Because now it's like, okay, that's an official Avatar. So, maybe bring him back if you can find a means to do so. And I like his performance, but it's also just like he's not in the movie a whole lot. All these celebrities were brought in because they needed to justify spending so much money on this. So it's like, fine, we'll get a bunch of big names for little parts. At least they're not trying to do the whole Jeffrey Katzenberg Goofy movie fiasco where they're like, we're going to get Steve Martin. So you want Steve Martin to do the Goofy voice? No, he's going to play himself as Goofy. And it's like, Jeffrey, this is what I want to strangle you.
But here's like the thing with the casting too. I think most of them probably weren't gonna come back. I mean, Janet Varney stepped away at Korra back in like 2022 saying, hey, I'll still be officially part of the franchise. I'll do the Bending of the Elements podcast and do other stuff. I no longer feel like it is appropriate for me to voice Korra.
Which is completely fine.
And I don't think Mae Whitman would probably have come back either. And, Zach Tyler Eisen's like in his 30s and is a grown-ass man now. So he was going to be replaced like either way. Like, I think the vast majority of them probably wouldn't have come back to begin with.
And that's fine. I think that's fine. But did we need Ke Huy Quan? Did we need Ken Jeong to do the Cabbage Merchant? Which, kudos to the Netflix show, they actually brought the actor who did the Cabbage Merchant there for that one moment in the first season. I don't know if he shows up in the second season. I'm not watching that shit. And then there's like Ronnie Chang, who is the Fire Nation messenger. And it's like, why? Ronnie Chang is a great character actor. He's a funny person. He is great in so many movies. Why hire him for this one measly scene?
I mean, they could have gotten a working voice actor like Alex Lee, who apparently actually did, I guess, some scratch vocals for that movie, but they didn't end up in the final. Like, you could have found, like, any, like, SAG-AFTRA, like, Asian American, Southeast Asian, like, an actor of, like, Asian or indigenous descent to, like, voice background characters instead of celebrities.
And we'll get to this, the one that bugs everyone, because I don't think I've seen one person try to ride or die with the Gorilla Vark spirit, voiced by...
Oh, the Taika pig.
Yeah, the Taika Waititi of it all, which, listen, I'm not on the hate train for Taika as many people are. I don't think his movies have been that great for a bit, but I'm looking forward to his new one. He's there for this one character when they're in the spirit realm. If you're going to have him like do such a superfluous cameo, why not bring back that one forest spirit from like the first season and such that Aang sees not only once but a couple different times throughout the whole season, like series. Well, the first series, I mean. Like, they could have done that instead of making this brand new character who does very little and then he's out of the movie. Doesn't matter. You're never gonna...
And I hate to say it, and I agree with my colleague. This is the definition of a big lip alligator moment. I like the character and I like the design, but he does not fit in this movie.
No, he doesn't. And
I mean, I'll say this, at least with Ronnie Chang's character as a Fire Nation messenger, he did have one of the funniest parts in the movie where he reads out the extremely blunt message like, "Hey Zuko, how's it going? I hope you're not dealing with that douchebag asshole Grand Chamberlain anymore. He sucks."
I did love that scene.
Yeah, where we remember, oh yeah, Aang is very cringe because like he's using, how do you do fellow kids language just because he's a century older than everyone else.
Yeah. He doesn't have the cadence of a young adult at all. And the comedy in this movie can be very funny. I thought Sokka being like, I was this super amazing member of the Avatar team, going full JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or Fist of the North Star design elements to him. Did everyone notice that Aang had hair during those moments?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's just like, yeah, I was pretty hot and pretty important to that whole thing. I helped save the day. And the kids are just like, okay, bruh. Okay, Janet.
Sure, Jan.
Oh, God. So, here's the thing with the pace. It's not a bad plot for the movie, where we find this Avatar who was like 5,000 or more years old and such, apparently beating Aang as the most frozen in time airbender. It's one of those things where I would have loved Taga more as a villain if they just did more subtle things with him, instead of just being like, man, Taga, you're kind of a pushy asshole. Oh, wait, you're the bad guy.
Oh, shit, no.
Because it's true. When you see him first use airbending, it's not like the 4 elemental bending techniques and styles are all based on real martial arts. That was a whole thing about the original series. Waterbending was based off of Aikido because you're using your opponent's energy against them. I know, I took Aikido for 2 years and martial arts for 5 or 6 years, enough to be an assistant sensei at 13. Fire Nation was more like based off hyper-aggressive martial arts. Earthbending was based off of, I forgot what it was called, but it was more of like a grounded, like feet to the ground martial arts. And airbending, I forgot what that one was called, but it was more about constantly moving. So when you think of airbenders, they're not standing in place at one point. They're basically the rogues and monks, if you had to compare them to like a D&D class. Your job is to get in there and then get the heck out as fast as possible and maneuver around so you don't get hit. Taga used his airbending more aggressively and assertively, more like how a firebender would. And that's cool. That's a great little bit of storytelling to tell you everything you need to know about Taga compared to Aang. And then it's just they lay it on a little too thick that he's the bad guy. Even if you didn't even know. They didn't give you enough time to let it be like, maybe possible clause of deniability that he's not.
It's the dialogue. And I think a lot of this, like, the dialogue in this movie isn't bad. It's just
a little on the nose.
Yeah, it's just kind of, God, this really could have used a second draft.
Because part of me does kind of assume and wonder if this was meant to be like a miniseries, but they shifted early enough so they didn't run into a Moana 2 situation where they were in the middle of making that miniseries, and then Disney was like, man, we lost so much fucking money. We gotta get ourselves some money. Turn that miniseries into a movie.
Yeah, the reason I'm suspecting, even if it was a miniseries, that, if they did switch directions, it was early enough, is because animation-wise, this looks so much more like, how should I say this? It looks more like feature animation than television in terms of like the size and the scale and everything.
Like, the cinematography is great. This needed to be seen on a huge ass theater screen.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no, like, for all our thoughts of this movie, this should have had a theatrical release.
It was made to be like, sometimes you'll see like a streaming animated feature and it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. It was small scale, small budget, whatever. But here it was like the big environmental landscapes and such. It's like, man, this would have looked so freaking cool on a giant screen.
Not only that, but how it's written, like, clearly there's supposed to be breaks for, like, our audience participation or, like, for a laugh, but then if you're just sitting there on, like, a laptop by yourself, you just kind of feel weird and awkward.
Exactly. And it's like, they got a lot of cool dynamic action sequences. The first opening action sequence is really good with Aang fighting the Denied. And then the whole, like, airship chase where you find out a little too early that Togga's
a dick?
Yeah, a dick. And I like the idea of Togga as a character. Of course, he runs into that whole, I have a justifiable means to hate every other nation, so I'm going to cause genocide and try to justify it motive, because he was there front and center watching the earthbenders of his time period basically slaughter.
Literally squash them like bugs. Like, honestly, that's might be one of the most brutal deaths of the Avatar franchise, which actually, considering, like, we had people's heads get blown off and, like, boat suicide is kind of saying a lot.
It's not that, like, Avatar could never get dark or really intense with its action, but I remember for the first time, I think it was book 2, when you meet Jet and his gang again, and there was just that moment where the Clancy Brown voiced villain basically, like, one-shots Jet in the head, and it's just like, there's just, man, that his cerebral cortex snapped there. He's dead.
I gotta say, Jet as a character is the reason why I don't necessarily have a problem with Togga's motivations. I think the heel turn goes a little too far. He still could have been, like, a more nuanced character, like Jet.
I mean, Togga to me is just a less interesting version of Zahir.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, like, to me, it's like, you can do this character right. Hello, Killmonger from Black Panther. Where it's just like, no, he actually has a justifiable reason to do this. But obviously, genocide is not a good idea. But still, it falls into the, like, I hate that trope because it always falls into the same trap of, well, this guy has an actually okay reason for how he feels about this. It's like how when you watch Wakanda Forever and Namor is just like, I didn't like the US government treading on my country and my territory without my permission and ready to shoot my people. And they're like, yeah, wait, why is Namor the bad guy? That kind of thing.
Only because he killed Angela Bassett.
See, that's the thing. And it's like, Togga felt justified with, like, yeah, we gotta take care of all these other nation benders because they don't care about our beliefs or our philosophy. We gotta save our people because we're the only ones that matter, which is where it falls into ethno-nationalism. Where it's like, it's all airbenders or no one at all. And it's like, okay, Togga, let's get you off that Manosphere podcast scene.
Yeah. But if we could just backtrack to the action for a second, because I think this is going to play into, like, our thoughts about, like, the final battle. Most of these action scenes are brilliant. Like, don't get me wrong. And this is something that I've noticed a lot in Flying Bark stuff. And this is something that isn't a Flying Bark thing that bothers me. This is just a thing that bothers me in general. Because I said this, I think, in our Demon Slayer Infinity Castle Part 1 review. I'm really kind of getting sick and tired of, like, the insistence that the camera has to constantly move during an action scene, whether or not it makes sense or not. Like, we have to go sweep, sweep, sweep. Like, if you're flying or doing, like, you know, a no-cut shot, that's one thing. But I actually showed this in, like, my Discord. I compared, like, one of the scenes in, like, Aang to the shot of, like, Levi in Season 3, Part 1 of Attack on Titan. The animator's name is completely out of my brain right now, but Levi's flying through in, like, the 3DM, but it's, like, a straight line of action. Like, the camera move, like, technically is impossible the way that it's focused, but you could see that Levi's, okay, he's going down the middle of the alleyway, zoom down, like, you can see, like, everywhere that he's going, you can follow exactly what's going on. And I think for me, my problem is the camera's flying around, that it kind of suspends, like, you know, my disbelief that I can't focus on what am I supposed to be looking at other than, whoa, it's action, woo! That just kind of annoys me, and I think it's just something that I've noticed in a lot of modern animation, especially with anime. It just doesn't seem like the camera operates under, you know, real-world physics. It's just kind of flying everywhere, and it just doesn't ground the shot for me, versus something like, I know it's live action, but it's a hybrid Dean Cundey cinematography work on Who Frames Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
The animation is allowed to be more expressive, since we're not following, you know, we're not shooting it like an animated movie, we're shooting it like a live action movie, and I just really wish animation would follow more of those principles more.
I mean, but what about stuff like The Legend of Kaye and such, where, but then again, that franchise, the camera movements there were definitely more restrained. So yeah, no, you got a point. It's like it becomes noise at points, which is exactly what happened with Demon Slayer. Yes, the animation is dynamite, the action is dynamite, but it's also way too much visual noise, especially with the fact that, like, okay, so when Taga is just like, yep, I'm the bad guy, I'm sure that was pretty challenging to know that I was the bad guy, even though Katara was just like, you're the bad guy, okay? like 5 feet back that you were the bad guy.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, so he almost kills all the characters, like the team, the gang.
No, I think he does. Like, I think they're actually dead, but they're in, like, this, you know, spiritual pool, so they revive, a la the moon spirit in book 1.
Oh, yeah, right.
I forgot about the moon spirit, because it's been a while since I've rewatched the series.
Well, and they wanted to make it a big deal that, like, the season 2 finale of, like, shit, Aang got shot, and he could...
No, Aang is dead!
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's just like, Zula, being badass bitch that she is, literally shoots a hole through Avatar Aang. And Katara was going to use the magical healing water on Zuko's eye, but nope, good decision-making on not using it on Zuko's eyeball. Talking about this franchise has reminded me of all the terrible ships that were happening around this show, and it's just like...
Oh, yes.
So they get brought back because they're, like, where they found the staff was in this spiritual realm between the skeletons of the, what were they called? The turtle dragons?
The lion turtles.
The lion turtles. And Katara, through very anime-style explanations, was like, it's like, I got this, the water in this graveyard was magically infused, so I was able to revive myself and then revive everyone else. And it's like, okay, you couldn't have shown us that instead of telling us that?
Nope, we don't have time for that.
So then they denied get airbit, like a bunch of different element bending abilities. I think some get like 2 at once because I feel like I saw one have both fire bending and air bending.
I think it was just she had like a fire arrow and then she just made it bigger with airbending.
Okay, that makes more sense because it's like now you're no longer the part of the denied. So I guess to me, like, the big thing about the denied finally getting their airbending abilities is the fact that, like, well, aren't you now the very thing that you hate? I guess that's just what my question is. Like, once the denied are given airbending abilities, why should they follow Taga over, like, with this continual genocide and such?
I guess because then there'll be no more benders. Look, I think we can all admit the denied, like, as a plot, is just kind of a little
broken.
It's half baked. Like, in theory, it's a good idea. Just the execution is just, sorry, buddy, that ain't it.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the problem with this movie. Like, again, not that it's a bad movie, and
Oh, no.
it's definitely not bad. I enjoyed watching it, but there are some elements, no pun intended, that could have definitely used more time in the oven.
If you were going to go down the anime franchise film route, why not have, like, a couple of benders frozen with Taga? Just have them be benders and such. And just cut the grr, I'm mad at the world because I can't airbend or whatever. Even though I'm pretty badass as I am. Because then it's just like, again, the pacing in this thing really does hurt at points where it's like, okay, we got the powers. Okay, that one denied is like, well, wait a minute. I now suddenly have a conscience, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is Taga about to cause a genocide? He is. Well, I quit. And they're like, no, you can't quit. Just think about those people and like how those Fire Nation people killed your whole village off screen. And it's just like, yeah, I kind of would have liked to have seen that, or at least at the very minimal flashback or something.
Even like a flashback with like some narration wouldn't have been great, but like showing us a little bit more of something could have helped.
Like I said, it's a lot of telling, not a lot of showing. Even though there are great moments within, like, all between the action set pieces, the dramatic moments. I love the last moment with Aang and Taga before Taga disintegrates into non-existence. Like, a lot of great character writing at points. It just needed, like, some fat cut off of it. Let's talk about the one thing, like, with how this movie ends. The movie ends, everyone's saved, and so everyone is saved. The denied are, like, no longer, like, killy. So they become the Airbender acolytes. Which, yeah, I think that makes sense. Aang is like, well, I might not at this point know about there being any more Airbenders now, officially. I'm just going to make sure we tell people the beliefs of the Airbenders so we can keep that legacy alive.
Which is so much better than their comic origins, where they literally start out as, like, Aang's fan club to commit cultural appropriation.
Like, it ends sweetly. They find more air bison and such, and Aang's just like, well, we might not find more airbenders during my lifetime, but we will find a way to bring them back. Which makes this movie all the more frustrating that that's a major point, like, plot part that's driving the story, because we know what happens in Korra. Where they do bring back the airbenders. But to have that happen, because it's already canonically there, they can't let the movie be canon. Or they can't let it be, like, super canon.
Well, I mean, it is canon, but, like, they're kind of restricted. Like, had this movie come out instead of The Last Airbender before Korra, I don't think people would be complaining as much. I mean, I certainly wouldn't. But it's funny, like, what they choose to keep in, like, continuity, because originally the comics were all canon, but clearly they're cool with changing the Air Acolyte's origins. But can we talk about the bullshit that's Avatarian?
Okay, so in the movie, instead of using the languages that they've used from what, like, both Last Airbender and Korra, correct?
Yes.
They go through the effort to try to make a new language. Okay, that seems like a lot of effort to focus on when this will never be brought up again. So, I mean, like, Brie, this was like your kind of like, oh god, this movie, like, frustrating beat. What do you have to say about it?
Okay, so, like, if this was just a language made for Seven Havens, I would have no issue with this. I'd be like, oh, it's the future. You know, they have no connection to the past. That makes sense. But in order to, like, adopt, like, a language and the complications of that, because also we're assuming that, you know, everyone has, you know, a high literacy rate in the Avatar world, which me doubts, like, a lot, especially during that period. So, you're telling me, you know, in the timeline of this movie, which is 13 years after Aang defeats Ozai, that somehow we have created a whole new language that everyone can read and understand that's a part of official government documents, because you see it in the scene with Zuko, like, they're giving the stamp and the approval. Not only that, but on the Sonam statue, that language is written on it, which, again, the continuity problems, but this isn't my big thing. My big thing is, like, the world building. So you're telling me, in 13 years, they've developed an entire new, you know, writing system that the entirety of the modern, you know, quote-unquote modern, in this sense, Avatar world can understand, and we're calling it Avatarian. Are you fucking kidding me?
It's just a dumb idea. It's just a dumb, weird little thing, and the movie's kind of full of dumb little fan servicey moments, which, like, listen, I get it. You, again, new Avatar thing in years, animation-wise. Of course, you bring back the Frothmouth Avatar freakout family, which it now has gone from the father freaking out to the kid freaking out, and the mom being like, why the hell did I marry you? You got the cabbage guy. You got so many little fan servicey winks and nods and details. Even when they're in the spirit world, they kind of throw shade, or it's like a little shade at the Zuko Katara ship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, because the Zutara fans haven't suffered enough.
It's just like, okay, whatever. It just got to a point to me where it became a little too distracting. With, like, there's a time and place for fan service, and I think they go a little too far with it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
At the end of the day, though, I still very much like this movie. Again, there are great moments shown throughout. I love seeing these characters again because they're great and well-written characters. Even if, for the sake of this movie, they're kind of flattened to a flat surface.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we're kind of comparing this movie, like, we are judging this movie more by Avatar standards, but also we are older Avatar fans as opposed to this isn't 2008. Like, we have seen more media since then.
But I'm glad this got made. I'm glad it didn't get, like, shelved because of, the leak.
This definitely deserved to be released in some capacity.
I mean, apparently it did have, like, a slightly wider release outside of New York and California, but it didn't go that far because I saw no screenings of it here in Texas. It's just like, so let's answer this. Let's just get this out of the way. Even with its Oscar qualifying run, this movie has no chance. They don't like nominating TV franchise movies. They don't like... they don't like nominating Nickelodeon or Paramount Animation.
Oh, especially not in this environment.
God, no.
No, so, like, the last time anything Paramount Animation got nominated for was for Rango, which was 2011. This was never going to have that chance. This would have had to have been the most amazing, tightly scripted movie of the year.
Yeah, it'd have to be, like, genre bending. Ha. Again, no pun intended. You know, like, I really wish this script was tighter. I still like this movie, but God, this script, it's not atrocious by any means, but it's really, like, weak. especially considering, like, how elevated, like, the visuals, the music, and everything else in the movie is. You just kind of have this, I wouldn't go so far as to call it, like, a fanficky script, but feels very safe. In, like, almost a clinical way.
No,
That's probably a good way to describe it. Like, again, not bad. It is a very enjoyable movie. And, again, all the more reason why I think it does deserve to be seen on the big screen. But we also can't deny that it's got a few blemishes on it.
And then it was even hard to enjoy it the week it was released because of that stupid San Diego Comic-Con panel. Because if for some reason you were living under a rock, the entire team that made this movie basically got thrown under the bus. Again, continuing the trope of the Avatar franchise being the most cursed franchise out there. There was a panel, assumedly where they were talking about their ideas and inspirations and references, where it showed an unused design, a bunch of, like, it's funny because without this one little detail, well, two details, you would have just assumed this was part of the art book. It looks like a typical page from an art book of an animated movie. But then people started looking at it, and who knows if the people at the Comic-Con panel noticed this or not. One picture showed up of Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan.
The character that is noticeably not Asian.
Like, the whole thing of Attack on Titan was, like, a tiny, tiny handful to maybe just one person in that entire universe of that show was Asian.
Mikasa was Asian, but they explain it later that, you know, basically, like, her ethnicity is Japanese, but, like, their version of, like, Japanese in the Attack on Titan universe is that her family was descended by, like, a member of the royal family back when parody had, like, open borders. You know, got cut off and stayed behind.
Pretty much. And, like, the whole thing, it's so funny because it's like that whole show has, like, European and German named characters and such. So it's just funny to see that there. And then the nail in the coffin, which got everyone worried about what the heck is going on with this studio and the teams working on shit. It said, according to ChatGPT.
When researching, like, basically it said, ChatGPT, South Asian, you know, people look like this. They, you know, Southeast Asian men noticeably, like, don't have beards. It was, like, ridiculous AI sloppity slop.
Only to then, so then that kind of let everyone be like, did y'all use AI for this movie? And then it took basically a huge chunk of the team to come out on Twitter to say, listen, we did not use AI. It is very clearly obvious that they did not use AI in this movie. The visuals are way too good looking. The writing, as wonky as it can be, was written by people. There was no AI used in production. They had to confirm that. So basically, a third party put the presentation together and slapped that bullshit on. And now we don't know who put that together. We don't know the person's name or the company that did it or whoever. Because now people are just going to have this looming dread and worry that everything going forward is going to be using AI, despite the fact that nobody actually uses AI unless you're just like a dipshit artist. Or artist, quote unquote. Because nobody likes it. They've even confirmed, like, some people are like, yeah, they tell us to please use it, and then we just tell them we do, but we don't actually do anything.
I feel so bad for this team because, you know, we should, you know, call this franchise Busatar, because every generation, that bus fucking comes back and just, like, just fucking rip, you floors it in reverse. Like, it doesn't matter what crew, what production you are, every goddamn time. But my concern about when this came out, because I think I was the first to tell you guys, is that, again, because we have, like, the Avatarian stuff, which is already kind of like, alright, so we have Chinese, you know, we're trying to, like, gentrify stuff, that already has its own level of, like, ick to it, which regardless, is still, it's a problem with this series, gradually kind of being whitewashed of its, like, Asian influences. Like, I think you could have a nuanced conversation saying, hey, this is a recurring problem in this franchise, but also realize that AI, isn't involved in it, and these people got thrown under the bus. Both of those things can absolutely be true.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, that's the thing about, it's the worry and things you have to really take into focus, because if you are not careful when you're making an Avatar universe or a Raya and the Last Dragon universe, you fall into the trap of doing hyper exoticism and such. So, like I said earlier, that's what happened with island culture and like places like Hawaii and such, where they just made it look like the most, like, what alien world is this? What primitive culture is this? And it's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Oh my god, this is so bad.
It's so bad. But basically the gist from what I understand and what I could piece together, so most of the time, art books are usually not put together by anyone involved with the crew. It's usually like a third party, because I read something, and don't quote me on this 100% because I'm just learning about this too, is that art books, by legal definition, aren't books. I think they're considered marketing material. So it's like a completely, like, different department. And it's very rare that any of the crew actually have, like, a say on that. So these materials were, prepared by a third party. Here's, like, my big professional question. Did anyone preview this presentation before they presented? Or they just, give it on a thumb drive and just, fucking go here? Like, that's concerning.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering the same thing, like, when screenshots of that slide came up.
Because it doesn't make sense. Okay, you didn't use AI. Okay, I believe that. Then who put that presentation together, and did y'all even have time to look over it? Or was this like a Paramount executive thing? Just saying, like, don't worry, we got this. And it's just like, now I don't trust you, Paramount.
I mean, we didn't trust them before.
But still.
The whole thing just really sucks. And I hate that the crew had to defend it, because if you look at one frame of this film and you see all, like, the reels that the artists put up, and, like, the Mira actually, I think, posted a video of it today. So, like, all, like, the different vendors and whatever, like, were posting their, like, work in progress shots. Not one frame of this film has AI in it. Like, if you believe that, then you don't even know what the shit fucking looked like. So there was no, like, superfluous, like, artifacts floating around. There wasn't any of, like, the telltale signs. As much as people want to say, oh, AI is the future, blah, 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 it can't do neat stuff like that. Like, you can spot it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, the other concern is, like, with the research, and again, I think the part about Avatarian is more relevant to that argument of, like, are we using, Asian and Southeast Asian culture, as, like, a cosplay? Which, again, is a legitimate argument to have. I think that's, been a discussion of Avatar as a franchise from the beginning.
Yeah, so, and like I said, you fall into the same trap of, like, Raya and the Last Dragon being like, this is just Asian culture. And it's like, okay, but there's, like, layers and subcultures and spin-offs of that. You can't just homogenize it. So
I know, which is, like, crazy to me. Like, this is, like, an unrelated tangent, but ironically, like, Sinners is probably the first time I've seen myself as an Irish person represented in that production, where I was, like, had the culture and, like, my cultural trauma, like, yeah, it was the villain, but I'm like, wow, my culture's actually being handled with respect. This feels so weird.
Or it's just like Wolfwalkers just being like, yeah, sorry, UK, we know there's probably some good blokes over there, but you guys suck.
Yeah, fuck Oliver Cromwell. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
You go chop off his head again.
Yeah, seriously. I guess the last question is, would you recommend people go see this movie? Like,
yes.
Whether they can find a miraculous screening of it in a theater, or give Paramount a little money,
a pirate slave for me.
or you do that. Like, however you want to watch it, would you tell people to go see it?
Here's the thing, like, no matter, and I would say this about, regardless of what our opinion is, I would never tell people, especially those who have been excited for more Avatar media, like, I would never tell someone not to see this. Like, if you're excited for it, then absolutely it deserves your attention.
I think my nuanced take is, I think if you want to seek it out, I think you can. I understand not wanting to give the Paramount's money. I understand not wanting to give the Ellisons money. I fully support that. Like, I canceled my Paramount Plus subscription, 6 months ago, didn't look back, because I only got it to, ironically, watch Avatar stuff that never fucking came. But however you want to watch it, support the artists, if you don't feel comfortable giving Paramount your money, that is your prerogative. I will not judge you on that. As for, the movie, I think, it's still a fun movie to watch. If you just want to, have a good time, but, don't expect anything, too deep. But, on the vice versa, if you decide that you're, on the fence and you want to skip it, I don't think it's the end of the world.
No, it's like we're hitting that point right now where we are at a point where the animated films that are coming out are not the most exciting. They're just kind of filling the void until we get to Forgotten Islands in 2 months. And I don't blame you if you don't want to give the Ellisons money. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. I don't think you're also missing anything by not seeing this movie. But if you do want to see it, you want to support the artist, do it. But do it because you want to support the artist and you want to see it. Don't.
Yeah, stop yelling at them. They have nothing to do with this. They have suffered enough. They have endured Zuko levels of suffering. Please leave them alone.
Leave the art team alone. So I think that'll be it for this episode. Good movie, good action, fun times to be had. And I'm not entirely sure what we're going to talk about next time. So we'll leave it up in the air.
But until next time, Bree, where can everyone find you online?
Oh, if you want to see my spicy takes on Avatar and other such nonsense, you can follow me at crazylemur.bsky.social. I am also on Instagram at lemurs1, where I do life vibe stuff. So, if you want to see me just be more chill and not angry at the animation industry constantly, go follow me there.
And Cameron?
You can find me on Blue Sky at camsiview.biz. I have my own website called camsiview.biz, where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am a writer for Media Magpies, your new one-stop shop for pop culture, media, TV, film, and everything in between discourse. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me at various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Renegade Pop Culture. Find us on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.